The hardest part about being a mom, female, raising a boy, is that I could be all things to Jamie. I could do all that. I could teach him how to read him. There's a funny story about that. But what I couldn't do is teach him how to be a man. So, Derek, at this phase in Jamie's life, when you came in, you were a man that I was glad was in his life. You encourage him about love and caring and business, and you're all things a man should be. So thank you for being a man in my son's life.
Welcome back to the Piece of Grit podcast. Today, I'm excited because we have a special guest. Today is not an entrepreneur. Today is my mother. It is my mother's 65th birthday today. And one of the things that she talked about that she really wanted for her birthday is to have a podcast with her son. So, Mom, thanks for joining the show.
Happy birthday to me, and thank you for having me, guys. Jamie, Ryan, and I have a special birthday surprise for me that Derek Faye. Sorry, Derek, I had to do it. Let's cheers.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna on the title of the episode, I'm gonna say featuring Derek Faye just to get all of that
Thanks
SEO.
For being here, Derek. I know you're a busy guy. Appreciate you being here.
My first question is, what is it like to raise a son as a single mom?
Can we back up just a little?
Yeah, it's your show.
Back up just a smidge because I'm happy to be here, guys. Seriously, I'm a little bit animated, and as you'll see as time goes on. But what really struck me is I said to Jamie, son, what should I wear for the podcast? I wear a suit 5 days a week. I'm buttoned up, suit up. Should I wear my suit? He's like, Mom, you're my mom. Wear what you wear as my mom. So I want you to get the pictures of me in my hoodie with my hood up. I'm Jamie's mom. I wear a hoodie. I'm a hippie at heart. I love my hippie clothes, my John Marks, give me it, flashier better, right? And then I wear my suit. So that was a really defining moment for me when you said, Mom, just dress like my mom. And so I say that because it ties into your question.
Uh-huh.
What was it like to be
the single mother raising a son in today's day and age? I'm 25, by the way, so if that gives some clarity in terms of, I was born in 1999, so she raised me from 1999 till now. So crazy time to raise a kid all by yourself. What was that like?
How much time do we have? One of the things that I want you to know that from the day that I brought you into the world, the second I saw you, I felt privileged and honored. And I mean that sincerely. And I have felt that every day of my life because I truly feel like being a mom and bringing a human into the earth is an honor and a privilege. I don't identify as a single mom, and I'd love to tap into that a little bit today, because I have some thoughts that I would like to share with you about that, but I don't like being tagged or labeled single mom. I was a mom who had Jamie. Now, you want to know what it was like as a mom raising Jamie? All right. Now we'll talk. No, it was really an honor and a privilege every step of the way. And what's interesting is every step of the way, I was fearful of the next phase. And it just got better and better and better until here we are today. I mean, being your mother, being a mother is amazing. Like anything in life, it's not easy. There are times it's a little scary. But for the most part, I haven't, there's no greater honor, there's no greater privilege than to be somebody's mother, and yours in particular. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
What is your, what is the stigma that you don't like around being labeled a single mom?
People have children by choice. whether they're women, have children by choice, whether they're single or married. And once we make that decision, we've decided to move into the realm of motherhood. And that's all that matters. It doesn't matter whether I'm doing it alone or doing it married, or I'm a mom. And what I don't like about being labeled a single mom is it came with a lot of unnecessary judgment. I think what made raising you hard is the judgment from others who labeled me as a single mom. I didn't get invited to some things because, oh, there's the single mom. You know, there's a fundraiser that I had just as much money as the physicians that I work with, that I traveled with. I was doing consulting work at the time, and they all went, and I didn't get an invite. And I just remember thinking, is that because I'm, single without partner? And that, that's fair if that's what they want to do. There were times when you were younger and I wanted to participate with the other moms to do things at the school. And so I did. It was at when we were living in Arizona, and it was J. Allen Axon, and it's their spring festival or whatever. And I said, oh, I'll lead this one. And I'm a business person, so I go in and I decide we're going to have a petting zoo, and we're going to have it was the best event, I thought, and that the school had, but I was never asked to do it again. And it was because some of the moms, married, found out that I'm a single mom. So it's kind of labeled, and but it hurt my feelings. But those are the kinds of things that you just have to wrestle with and muscle up, and don't tell the world you're feeling it, and move on. That's what made it hard about being a single woman raising a boy. Now, there are some advantages to being labeled a single mom, and I used them every chance I could. And I'll tell you how I did. And I don't feel, I feel good about it, but I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to share it with you. I'll throw the single mom card if it gets me a good deal. And Jerry knows that. And the most fun I had with it is when, I think it's True Greens, they put the, we were living in Chetts Creek, Jacksonville, Florida at the time, and they put chemicals down on my yard to kill the weeds. Well, they killed my whole front yard, the whole thing. And they weren't going to pay to resod it. So I said, you need to get your man out here and look at my yard. You guys have to fix this for me. So I get Jamie ready Jamie wants to play. I'm like, no, put your shorts on, take your shirt off, take your shoes off, come to the door when the guy gets here. And he comes and he's like, hi. I'm like, oh, hi. So thankful that you're here. Thank you so much. It's just me and my son. I'm just a single. Please help me out. And I thought, you guys are going to try to stick it to me. Watch this. No, I'll throw the single mom card. So I did that. And I'm quite proud of that, because guess what? They were there 2 weeks later, resodding the yard. Thank you, Jamie, you didn't know you were acting at the time, but you did it. And the second time it came in handy is another time was when I was buying the car you're driving now. I made Jamie come with me. And I would said, Jamie, this is going to be your car someday. But really, my strategy was, oh, it's just me and him, man. Come on. Come on. I don't have that much money. Just a little bit. Come on, come a little bit. So I use it. And I shouldn't say that probably because, I don't like that single moms, play the world or try to get advantages that they don't deserve. But I'll play it. I mean, I'll throw the card once in a while.
I'm interested because obviously I only have my perspective, but thinking back to some of the harder points in whether it was, the audience doesn't really know this, but through the phases of elementary school when I'd have, the bullies and the stuff like that. And in most scenarios, you at least from the context that I had from other kids at school, you had a bully, you went home and your dad was like, hey, take a metal lunchbox and, if they bully you, smack them in the head with it. And there was different times where I really I didn't feel comfortable necessarily telling you what was going on or the situation, but there was obviously points where you found out. And one of the stories I'm fine to share because it was crazy. My mom's intense, I'm intense, so I got that gene from her. But there's a kid that was whatever, like not picking me in certain like it was stupid. It was like dodgeball or whatever it was, and like I wouldn't get picked. And one day I came home and I was like telling my mom about it, and you just saw like rage over her. I was like 10, 12, and not even. Actually,
I think it
I
was
was in third grade.
grade.
Yeah, third grade, and all this shit was happening, and I went to her and I just saw like you want to talk mama bear, like rage over her eyes. She goes out to the, you know,
No, it was like this. Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. Okay. What happened is some little girl in the neighborhood came up to me, a second grader, but I do want to give Derek props before he leaves, and came up to me and said, Jamie was a safety at the time, and one of his friends said in front of the kids, oh, Jamie's just dumb. And that's what got me. But I do want to say this before Derek leaves. Derek, the hardest part about being a mom, female, raising a boy, is that I could be all things to Jamie. He had a stable environment. He had a stable house. My goal was to raise him in a neighborhood with a sidewalk so he could ride his bike. I could do all that. I could teach him how to read him. There's a funny story about that. But what I couldn't do is teach him how to be a man. So, and that is when my heart broke because, you know, I'm not going to pretend. I resent women that say, I'm a single mom and I can do all things for my son, but you can't because you can't teach him how to be a man. So I spent much of my time strategically placing men in Jamie's life. Football, coaches, I would always take the time to express gratitude to them. Not that they owed me anything. And I wouldn't go to them and say, oh, I'm a single mom. Thank you for doing this. I would just say, hey, thank you. Appreciate what you're doing for my son. So, Derek, at this phase in Jamie's life, when you came in, you were a man that I was glad was in his life. You know, I believe kids need a mom and a dad. I believe they need masculine and feminine, and I'm not one of those women that are like, yay, pro single moms. I actually mentor young girls and encourage them to be married, and you need men. Jamie needed a man, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm sorry I'm a little teary-eyed, but that's why. I mean, I'm just cheering for you, and I really enjoyed your podcast and watching them, but what's in my heart truly for you is a man in this man's life. You talk to him about the tough stuff. You don't put up with his shit. You see through some of his shit. You encourage him about love and caring and business, and you're all things a man should be for kids, men. So thank you for being a man in my son's life. And thank you for not flicking him off your shoulder when he was bugging the heck out of you. Because there was something about that where you needed each other. And I will always be grateful to you, whether I see you again or I will always like your videos too, because I love them. But thank you, sir. I know it's a lot, but I really wanted you to hear that before you left.
So what was the dynamic with doing it like by yourself from the perspective of there's like phases of it. Obviously there's phases when I was not able to like, you know, walk, talk, like unable to do things. Like what's just the practical aspects of having to do it all yourself?
One thing that I learned early on is, and well, let me back up because I can do a lot, and I did a lot myself, but pretty early on, you realize that it takes a village to manage any household, but once kids get involved, it takes a village. You need friends to help pick up after school. Sometimes they need you to help pick up after school, especially professional women. Now, what I do relate to more than single mom is professional women having children. I am in a profession and that I enjoy and I have to take seriously, right? My job is serious, and so are my friends. And so the people around me, the women around me, are professionals too. So I learned early on that we needed each other, and it really does take a village. What the other thing that I recognized as a mom very early on is that I wanted to be a mom, and I was willing to sacrifice everything to make sure I was a good mom, right? And that's and what that looks like is, I didn't go out on Friday nights. We hung out. We had your cousin over. I mean, I didn't care to do that because it was, to me, again, it was a privilege to have you. And so I didn't begrudge not being out somewhere. I didn't care. I was exactly where I wanted to be. What got challenging for me when I really started to feel things I never thought I'd feel as a mom of a boy without a partner is when you were about 6 years old. And maybe, no, it was before that because I think we hadn't left Arizona yet. So you must have been 3. And we were in the car driving home from work, and you said, Mommy, some kids at school have daddies that pick them up. How come my daddy doesn't pick me up? Don't I have a dad? And I thought, oh my, at 3 years old, you're asking a question like that? I was not ready for that. I was like, oh, you have a dad. He just doesn't pick you up from school, which was true. But, some of the questions that come out of little children's mouths are quite challenging for any parent, whether you're a single mom or not. Back to bullying. Those were the most challenged days I had. Because to see your child, who is such a kind-hearted child, be bullied is hard for anybody. And it doesn't matter if you're a single mom or not. It's gut-wrenching. And you're never prepared for that. And what do you do? Well, in my case, I was at a fair, and this young boy, Alex, somebody was throwing the football and it happened to go out of bounds right at my toes. And I'm not proud of this, but Mama Bear just said, oh, well, Alex, hi. He was so happy. Hi, I'm Jaimes' mom. And I heard that you are telling the second graders that Jaimes mean and stupid. Oh, who told you that? Oh, one of the neighbor. And I mentioned the girl. Oh. And I told him that he better never do that to you or anybody else in that school again, ever, or I would tell his mother. And I thought that was the right thing to do. And he just, I promise I won't. And he ran off. And then a couple of days later, I got a call from the principal that said I should never talk to anybody's kid again. I wasn't threatening him or anything. I just said, you better never ever do that again, because I'll tell the principal and I'll tell your mom. But what I didn't expect is that it would make your life harder. And you told me that many years later that you got teased worse by the other kids because your mom went to bat for you. Your mom told Alex off, and so they teased you about that. So those were the days that you can never prepare for. No mothering book, no parenting book could ever prepare you for that. Those kinds of things that happen unexpectedly, and they happen when you, like I said, you're least expected. So you're blindsided by it. So Does that make sense? Did I go?
Yeah, no, it did. It did. I'm interested in terms of there was different situations where, I call it the helicopter mom. And I think people can relate to what it's like to have a helicopter mom and what it's like to be a helicopter mom. What was the inclination to trying to control all aspects of whether it was trying to, because I'm lucky. I had a mom that cared. Most people don't have parents that care, and most people have the exact opposite problem. I'm lucky because I think part of what that did is that created a self-governance that I was able to was deeply ingrained in me. But I'm interested with the way that the world works, because obviously once I got to high school and my dad died and this tragic thing happened and that tragic thing happened, you get to a certain point where you can't protect the world of the kid anymore, and life has to start hitting it in the face. I'm interested, what was your perspective on that?
So hindsight is why I can now say that I was a bit of a helicopter mom. In the moment, I wasn't trying to be a helicopter mom. What I was trying to do is control what I took serious responsibility over, right? So when you came into the world, I recognized profoundly that I was responsible for this human life. And like all things, I take that very seriously. So my life was about protecting you, controlling our environment so that you had peace and had stability. That was really important to me, is to make sure your life was stable, because mine wasn't. And I was growing up. I moved every year of my life from the age of, from fourth grade, every year until I moved to Arizona in my 30s and lived somewhere for finally 13 years, 14 years, and I had you, or 15 years, whatever it was. So it was really important to me that as a mother of a child, that I bring stability into your life, that I make sure nothing happens to you, no harm is done to you, emotional or physical. So I took that really seriously. And one of the things that I will share with you, one of the challenges, you asked me that earlier, about raising a child on your own, is that it's almost like you live on a tight wire. So you control everything, you have control of everything. But if something goes awry, it really upsets the apple cart. So it's really hard to recover sometimes when something goes awry. So I worked very, very hard to make sure that everything was controlled, that you came in, you ate a certain time, you did your homework. I controlled it just because it was easier that way.
Well, militant, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I did what I could, what I thought was the best thing to do. And then what happens is then you form that habit. And I want to control. And some of it is, too, I will add this. I'm in healthcare. And when I started in healthcare, I worked at a pediatric hospital. And I saw what can go wrong quickly. 1 minute, a 10-month-old baby's coming on our unit, normal, and had a fever of 104. And because it couldn't get resolved quick enough, the parents didn't get him in quick enough, he became brain dead, and he'll never be the same again. I've witnessed things like that. I witnessed kids that were on skateboards and hit the ground and broke their vertebrae and are paralyzed now. I've seen a lot, and I think that really plays into why I was so careful.
Yeah.
You call it controlling, and there's some aspect of that, but I think some of it was a little bit of fear. I wanted to make sure nothing happened, that you didn't get harmed.
What was it like being in the situation when, like, obviously my dad and I never really had like a legit relationship throughout throughout my childhood, and there was times where he'd pop in and pop out, but going to the point where I'm like 14 and we get the call that he has leukemia, and like you're having to walk a 14-year-old through like this uncomfortable reality of dealing with mortality with a person that he barely knows, yet is in the social context told is such an important piece of a young man's life. Like, how did you navigate that?
The whole navigating life with your father, and we'll call him out, like Brad Wesley Boyer. I want to honor him, and I'm very grateful to him. Best human being on the planet, because we have you. But the challenge with navigating any type of relationship with Brad is, like, he was a bit of a hellion, professional hellion, a pilot, and but he had this thing where he feared me and feared the situation, and never understood that I'm truthfully, honestly a sincere person when I say no strings, have a relationship, have one. He never believed that. So it was very challenging for me. I always stayed in touch. I always sent him pictures. I did all of that. And all I ever wanted was for you to have a relationship with him. And when he finally agreed to come out to Florida, I set everything up for him. I was the happiest I'd ever been in a long time, because you were going to finally, see your dad and meet him and start a relationship. And when the two of you laid eyes on each other, I'll never forget it as long as I live. Like, it was like two people who've known each other their whole life finally saw each other. You look exactly alike, you act alike, you talked alike, you saw each other, and you're like, oh my God, where have you been all my life? It was a beautiful moment. And then, you know, to share those moments with you were wonderful. To have them cut short when you finally felt complete and whole, having him in your life was absolutely devastating for me, to watch you have to go through that. And at the same time, there was a little bit of relief, as hard as that is for me to say, because the relationship was so torturing for you. So many times you wanted to see him and he couldn't because of this or that, and I'm flying here and I'm going there, and it would break your heart every time you couldn't get together with him. So I knew there'd be no more heartbreak like that for you. And at the same time, I was devastated because I felt your pain of losing what you never had, like losing what you missed out on so much. And I think that, and I could be wrong, I read your pain as that. It's like, oh my gosh, finally I get my time and now he's gone. And so now I missed all that time and I'll never get it back. And it went really deep. It was challenging, but what was interesting about that time is that you were so stoic. You're like, I'm good. Jamie, you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Jamie, you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Until the day that I had to pick you up at the hospital because your body shut down. You had some type of neurological response to it. Was still to this, you just kind of passed out and lost, all function for a day or two. But I believe that was your body's response. Like, you have to respond to a tragedy like that. But it was challenging. And all I could do from that point on is just help you honor your dad any way I could. In the memory. And tell you the good things I know about him. And when I say to you, you're just like your dad, I mean it, like sometimes, and I want you to honor that. But that's never easy. Even whether you were together or not, if you lost your dad, you lost your dad. But in your case, when you finally had a chance and then you lost it and lost your dad, it was quite challenging.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't, again, I think I'm grateful in the sense that I didn't have a super tight relationship with him, because I don't imagine what it would have been like to have to experience that without. But yeah, it was an interesting phase in my life. Coming to another point was when I was playing football for like super long time and like, so committed to that, so obsessed with that, so all in that. Like, this is around high school time, and then, I get the news that like I broke my ankle. Long story short, I end up going to the doctor's office, and he's like, "Hey, yeah, to be honest, I think your playing career is over." I'm just curious, like, what was it like to experience that from your perspective? Because personally, I had this identity that was so wrapped in such a masculine thing, where it was like part of a coping mechanism, I'd imagine, where I was just always trying to like be the toughest, hardest hitter, whatever it was, just whether it was the lack of the male presence in my life or not, I don't know. But what was that like going through from your perspective?
So what I found out quickly that as a mom was that I wasn't your typical football mom. Like, a lot of the moms, they go out and buy their outfits for the season. They're excited and on the sidelines cheering their sons on, just very competitive about it. And me, I would go out to the field and be like, oh God, I don't want to watch this. Again, back to healthcare, I hated to see you get hit. I hated to see any of them get hit. So it was really hard for me. And there are times when you're like, Mom, why are you on your phone when I'm playing? Well, because I had to look at my phone sometimes, especially when you were playing special teams, and you'd be running full force, and the other side was coming full force. I knew that had to be significant impact. It would scare the heck out of me. So I did what I could to cope with it. And I felt the best during all those years, from 7 years old until, 17. I felt best was when you, during quarters and halftime, because you may not have been the best player, but you always played, you always started every single year since you started, you were 7, and you always played both sides. So I never got a break. You're always in. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was always worried. So I didn't like it for you that you, I didn't like that you hurt your ankle, but for me, I was so happy. I was so relieved. I was like, thank God my prayers have been answered. No more football. Because I didn't want you to break your back, your neck. I'm a worrier about stuff like that. Again, I think it's my healthcare background. But I was so relieved. What I didn't expect is that you would have a major identity crisis. Because, right away they made you a coach, an honorary coach, because you're good at what you do. You were very good at football. You understood the game like many kids did. So I was proud of that. I was like, now go into coaching. Let's go, coaching. But you couldn't relate to that. That was not you. But to answer your question, flat out, happy. Thank the Lord. Yay.
Okay. The next thing would be the day that I called you and told you I was dropping out of college to go all in on the business.
Well, before we go there, I think there's a couple days I want to touch on before that.
Okay.
So sending you off to college was really challenging. I loved it for you. I wanted you to go to college because I know that, it was hard for you to get there. Being dyslexic, that was probably the most challenging part of being your mom is that, I do want to dial back a little bit, is when you were younger and I was trying to teach you to read. And someday, maybe you can answer this here even now, I feel like I may have scarred you because we were, like, you had to read every night. And every parent was like, oh, loving reading with their kids. Oh, this is so much fun. I'm like, I'm not having fun. So Jamie and I are sitting on our little love seat. All right, let's read this book, son. Da-da-da-da. Doesn't know the word. The. Da-da-da-da-da. Doesn't know the word. The, Jamie. T-H-E. The. Da-da-da-da-da. There it is again. I'm like, Jamie, it's the. And I'm like banging on the book. And I'm like, why don't you get it? I got so frustrated. I think today I still wonder, did I scar that poor kid? Because I could not understand why you saw that same word 4 times. And these are little sentences. You're a little kid. And you didn't read it. You couldn't read it. But it wasn't too much longer after that I found out that you're dyslexic. And that sight words like that you would never read. You could never do that. It's just not the way a dyslexic brain is wired. So I get the Mother of the Year award because I'm like, for the Jamie, of, F, of. But those words are never anything a dyslexic could read. They just don't. You could read elephant because what I learned is that once you sounded out that word once and you saw the picture, every time you saw that word, you pictured the elephant and you'd say elephant. So it's just that was a very challenging time. So back at you in a second. That was really hard. And then when I said to you, well, Jamie, we had the testing done outside of the school system because I wanted it to be very objective. And we got your tests back and, you're off the charts in so many things, emotional, so many ways you tested off the charts, gifted, except reading. You didn't. And that's when we discovered that you were dyslexic and on like that. So me being a fixer, all right, what do I have to do for my son to make sure he knows how to read? And I learned all about it. And I found out that the way that we teach in our schools is not how dyslexics learn. It's not how a lot of people learn. So we had to teach you how to read all over again in 3rd grade, all over again, from the beginning. And when I brought that to you, I remember you looking me in the eyes and you said, and I said, and tutor can come to school and you said, Mom, please don't do that to me. Do not pull me out of classes and single me out and make me look stupid. And that broke my heart more than anything. I was like, oh, gee whiz. You preferred to give up playtime with your friends after school than I thought it'd be more convenient if you just did it during school. So what we did is you, 2 days a week, went to the library for 2 years, public library, and learned how to read all over again. And then we took the FCAT and you got a 4. Do you know that?
I don't.
Oh yeah, very clearly. I saved it, the score. So that was really challenging. So then to get you to finally get to college, oh yay! It was like this mother's dream come true because of your academic challenges, right? I think the one of the first defining moments about college was when you said to me, Mom, you called me. You said, Mom, I'm shocked. All they do at college is drink and have sex. Like, I can't believe this is all they do here. They smoke weed and they drink and they have sex, and that's all anybody does. And that's when I realized I did a good job raising you. So like, oh, look at my pure boy. It makes you pure for that period of time. But anyway, back to your question. It meant a lot to me that you get through college. I'm the first on both sides of my lineage, first female to ever get any education beyond high school, and then higher education first, both sides, Benziel Caruso. And I love that. It wasn't easy because nobody was saying to me, go to college. My dad, actually, when I was in my first year of college, he said, why are you here? You're supposed to be home pregnant and barefoot. He thought I was crazy to be in college. So I just wanted to make sure I offered you the opportunity to go to college, and that you took advantage of it, did all you could. And when I look back, not too long ago, I was cleaning out my desk drawer and I was looking at your transcript, and you did great. All these great scores, and I'm like, wow, Jamie, it wasn't like you were struggling. You just went in a different direction. So what was it like the day that you called me and told me you were going to drop out of college? Do you remember it?
Yeah.
It was at 8:30 in the morning or 8:15. I was driving over the Beachland Bridge in Vero Beach. And I think every car on that bridge must have heard me screaming at stuff in my lungs. What do you mean? You give me the phone number of that president of entrepreneurship. I'm going to have my blah, 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 blah. She's the one who talked you into this, and I need to talk to her. I went crazy in my head. And I guess this isn't a good time. I'll talk to you later. That was a great day at work. But I shake it off. I don't take it in. But yeah, it was challenging, as you know. And for a couple of years, I was like, come on, Jamie, just, And then, you meet the Derek Fays of the world, and you meet, other people that I've watched. And I think that's one of the beauties of our social world, and how we can meet people from afar a little bit more and get to know them a little bit. I see many successful people that have not. It just pisses me off that I spent so much money. And we could have done it. But I will say this, you may not have, and I believe that someday you will go get the degree, just like Jim McMahon. Like he never graduated from Utah, Brigham, or whatever it's called up there. He never did until like he was in his 50s, and he finally decided he wanted to put the period at the end of that. And I believe that's going to happen for you someday. Probably when I'm dead and gone, but I'll roll him in grave and I'll cheer for you. But what I realize is that you did get a lot out of college, and nobody knows this better than I do, because what you did in your way that you always do things is you went into the School of Entrepreneurism, which I didn't agree with. That was another thing. I'm like, oh no, that's stupid. What is that? No, go get a job in healthcare, steady income, and all this stuff, right? And you went into that, and it resonated with you so deeply that while you were there, you started, help people start companies, and here we are today. So I believe I got my money's worth out of sending you to college. Someday you're going to go back and get the degree because I want you to have it, and you'll want it someday. But right now, what you told me is I'm busy with this company. But you got more out of college than some people get out of college that get degrees. You got in there, you found your niche, you found your people, and here you are running this piece of grit and grit media. So you got a lot out of college. Now you just, I still always say till the day I die, probably on my deathbed, go that degree.
Yeah.
Just because it is cool to have that hanging. But you got it. I do believe that every penny I spent on college was a good investment where you're concerned. We're sitting in it.
That's true enough. Last and final, what is your message to mothers out there who are struggling right now, trying to raise 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids all by themselves? And what would you do? What would you say to them right now?
One of the, this is so deep for me, because it really bothers me when women show up as victims. There are victims, women that are victims. They're abused at the hands of men and people. And those women deserve all our attention and love and money, and we need to help them. But there are women that are raising children because they chose to have children that then want sympathy and pity, and they want to stay in this victim. I'm a single mom. Oh my gosh, looking for handouts and walking around victimized by it. And what I would love to say to every one of them is look at your children, look them in the eyes, and remember what an honor and a privilege it is to be a mom. Because I know women that have tried many times, years, to have a child, and they can't. So those of us that get to have them, it's an honor and a privilege. I think that some people have children and they think, I want to have a baby. Well, the baby phase is nice and easy, and it's fun, and it's cute, right? You can pick the kid up, move them around the house, and, it's when they start moving that life gets tough, and then it just gets all kinds of different ways of toughness along the way as through the evolution. But at the end of the day, we're not victims of our children. Our children are our strength. I don't like when people live vicariously through their children either. I would like to say to single moms, you don't need to do that. Stand on your own. You're not the single mom's stigma is just something we have to somehow drop the narrative. You're a mother, period. I'm a mother, just like any other mother that walks the planet. And it is a privilege and an honor to be a mother. It's harder than, I do want to say, I'm going to go off a little bit here too. I don't believe that being a stay-at-home mom is the hardest job there is either. I don't believe that. Every job is hard. If you're making money, you have to work, and it's hard to do it. I don't like people that go, well, I'm a stay-at-home, and it's the hardest job. It's so hard. I feel like that's victimization. No, you're not a victim. You're a stay-at-home mom, and it's hard work. It's hard work for me to go into corporate America and work. It's hard, but it's what we choose. And I want us all as women to stop being victims of anything. We're not victims. Live in our strength, live in our power. We don't have to be men. We don't have to act like men. We don't have to look like men. We don't have to be as strong as a man, but we have to live in our own strength. Whether you choose to be a mom, you choose not to be a mom, you don't want to get me on my soapbox. You know what's harder than being a stay-at-home mom? Being a working mom, a professional mom, where that cares about their child, that doesn't want their child to be raised in, by someone else. That's hard. So everything's hard, but it's what we choose. And I say to any woman out there who's chosen to be a mom, lean in, be a mom. Don't live vicariously through your children. Don't blame your children for your situation. You chose it. Sometimes things happen. You get divorced. It's hard. Lean in it, cry. Don't cry in front of your children. Don't make your children feel guilty because their dad left. Don't pin their dad against, don't do that to your children. They deserve to have a life too, kiddos, right? And really be strict. I believe this. I want to say something else, not about single mom, but about parenting. I don't believe in this. Oh, they have to give them freedom to find their way. They'll find their way. Yes, at 18. Yes. But until then, we have to guide them. And that's hard to have a kid, especially the hardest time raising you was when you were in high school because you were fighting me every step of the way. And I was like, okay, alrighty then. No, you're not the boss of me. How many times I stand on the chair and say, you're not the boss of me. But you had strength, you had determination, and you were trying to control me. But we can't let our kids control us. Even though they do try very hard to intimidate us, especially boys. I'm talking boys. Girls do it too. But boys, my nieces did it when they used to come. Around 15, 16, 13, they start challenging us. And we have to be strong. You're the parent. I went to a psychologist once because you were really driving me crazy. And I sat down with him, and he sat down with me, and he worked with me for a little bit. And then he met with you separately. And then I go back to him, and he goes like this. Miss Terri, that boy's working you. You're the mom. You're the parent. Get a grip. He's working you. And that was when you were young. That did it for me. So I just say to all moms, be strong, be proud, let your kids, be your greatest joy. And there are no victims here in terms of being a mom. Does that?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm strong about that. Nothing bothers me more than a woman who is playing the victim, the single mom victim, who truly isn't. There are plenty that are, and again, my heart goes out to them. But be a mom because you want to be, because you've chosen. Be a good mom. Your kids need you. Think twice before you go out. Leave your kid home. They'll remember it. What would you say was the best part about being my son?
I had a mom.
Was there any part of being my son?
I had a mom who cared, and I grew up around other friends, family, people where I saw the other side of that. I saw what it looked like for a mom not to care. And as pissed as I would get at you, I think I can look back now being 25 and be like, I'm glad she was as strict with me at certain points. I'm glad she said no to letting me hang out with that person. Because there's, I think we don't realize it as kids, but there's so many different points where you could go left or you could go right. And that deviation in the road could be the decision between dying young or living a happy and healthy life. And you never know what intersection you're in. So although there's points where I hated it and I really hated the idea of being so confined, and I think that's part of just my defiant nature a little bit, I'm grateful for it. And I'm grateful for you coming on the show, Mom. Thank you.
We'll do another podcast when we talk about what it's like to be the mom of a boy who just got married.
Nice.
Cut out of his life. So more to come.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you enjoyed this one, and we'll see you on the next one.